and or maybe a few more than that, and so God's still working in this place. He's still using this place. He's using you to accomplish His purpose and His task here, and we just want to keep the fire burning, and I love the singing and all that God does here, and the working in lives and changing lives, and I'm so grateful to see that happening. And we got some folk a little bit careless. You know, some get careless with their church attendance and all those kind of things in these 6 seasons, you know. And you see them doing everything else. You know, they do everything else, and then, I can't make it to church. Be careful about that, okay? And if you're watching live stream tonight and you're just sitting at home unnecessarily, you ought to be ashamed. I'm going to look into the camera and say you ought to be ashamed. Need to be in God's house when you can, because there's going to be a time you can't. And believe you me, I know that for a fact. And so don't get careless with your church attendance just because other people sitting at home and all those kind of things. And it's not widespread, but you do see it. You do see it. And it's amazing, that Sunday syndrome, you know, that people are so sick on Monday, but they're always up and working. I know people have to work. I understand that. But I can be a little embarrassed sometimes, you know, if I miss Sunday after Sunday after Sunday and got up and went to work Monday after Monday after Monday, I'd check myself out. I really would. I'd see more than a doctor, I guarantee you. And but anyway, I just thought I'd pass that on for the fun of it. And but you don't want to get careless with your faithfulness to the Lord. You want to be faithful to Him and do the things you have to do. I might not look real smart, but I've got a high school education and everything, and so we know a little bit about this and that and the other. We want to keep the church. I almost said keep the church alive. I heard someone say that a few days ago. They weren't talking about this church, but they were asking the question, what do you do to make a church alive? Well, you don't do anything to make a church alive. That's not the problem. The church is a living organism. You don't have to make the church alive. That's not a problem. The problem is making the church lively. You're making it look alive. And that's where you have to put the effort in, is to make it lively. And I like what the preacher said this morning. We expect things that we're not even willing to do ourselves. We want to have a worship-filled service, and yet we ourselves sometimes we're a little slow or we're a little slack in our individual worship. We want things exciting and we want things moving along and active and all those kind of things, but we kind of want it at arm's reach. You know, we want to be able to make sure it's out there, but then we don't want to embrace it ourselves and be part of it. And so there's a lot of things to make a church lively. Now, I'm not preaching about that tonight. We'll be in the book of Hebrews in chapter number 12, and we'll be looking at several verses here and some other places in the scripture. I want to share with you tonight a thought. It's not here, it's elsewhere. We'll look at it here in a few moments, but the thought is generated from Hebrews chapter number 12. We're not going to read all the verses down to number 15, but I'd like to read verses 1 and 2 and then drop down to about verse number 12, and a lot of important information in between those verses, but just for the sake of time tonight and just kind of give you a little nod in the direction that I'm headed. And I think the pastor, Corey, I think he made reference of this text either last night or this morning. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us. And here it is, let us run the race with patience. Let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author of and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Then dropping down all the way to about verse number 12, I want to want to think about this matter of running the race. I want to give you some things tonight to help you run the race. We'll look at that here in just a moment. But then he gives us example and illustration. It's early in the year. The Lord tarries coming. We got a lot of race running to do this year, and we want to be faithful to the Lord in running the race that He has set before us, as we've already read. And but we find ourselves, as I was alluding to a few moments ago, we find ourselves having trouble getting our hands up in the air, and we're having trouble getting our hands from down by our sides. It's kind of hard to run a race. I ran a little bit of track in the 8th grade. I went out for track in the 9th grade, and I actually ran in perhaps 2 different contests or events, whatever they call race, track and field. And I was in the 440 relay, the 440 relay. I ran that some, and just part of that team doing that. And so I know a little bit about running. And our coach, he would coach us that you just don't run with your feet, but you run with your eyes, and you run with your arms, and you run with your hands. And so in order to get all of those things coordinating one with another, you do a lot of practice. You run a lot, and you run your segment of the relay race, and you run as hard as you can. And for just that few moments of time, you run just as hard as you possibly can. It's not like a marathon where you're going to have to pace yourself, but when you run as a team on a team racing, or even the 100-yard dash or the 100-meter dash now, and we didn't measure in metrics back in our day in school. We were around 100 yards or whatever, and so on and so forth. And so there's this art to running the race, and some things that will help you to run the race well in 2026. Now, verse number 12, wherefore lift up the hands which hang down, and the feeble knees. Keep your eyes focused, and make straight thy paths. Every little off step when you're running a 100-yard dash or any kind of a sprint race, just one little weave or bob to one side or the other, it may only take up a very, very, very small, with the decimal and 4 numbers, part of a small part of a fraction of a second. But you do it 2 times or 3 times or 4 times or 5 times, and the next thing you know, you've lost some time in the race. And so it is important that we understand to make straight the paths of your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way, and let it rather be healed. Follow peace with all men. Now he's talking about spiritual things, giving the example of physical things, and talking about spiritual things. Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord, looking diligently, lest any fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. And he goes on and on and on, and he begins to talk about things to keep us in the Christian race. And that's what I want to look at briefly tonight. I want to give you this title out of verses 12 through 15, Things to Help Us Run Well. Things to help us run well. Now, there's a companion verse found in Galatians chapter number 5 and verse number 7. You did run well. There's a lot of, in football and basketball and stock car racing and all of those kind of things, there's a lot of, and when you use the words has been, it almost, it almost is like you're kind of desecrating them or something along that. You're not appreciative of what they've done. But sometimes people are has-beens because they used to, but they can't now. They can't run the race now. They used to run, they ran the race well, and now they're not able to run the race as well. And we don't want to classify someone as a has-been. And he said, but you did run well. Who did hinder you that you should not obey the truth? Good question. Good question. 2 Timothy chapter 4, in verses 4 through 7, we have an example of somebody that finished well. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth, there's laid up for me a crown, a prize of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not me only, but unto all them that love his appearing. And then I just jotted down a couple of things, and I'll give you the 5 things to the outline quickly tonight. The Christian life is number one, and we see these projected in the Scripture. The Christian life, it's a battle. I didn't list these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But the Christian life is a battle. And so my encouragement is to be a good soldier. The Christian life is a journey, so travel safely. The Christian life is a fight, so train fiercely. I used to love to watch boxing years ago. And my dad, he loved to watch boxing. That was about the only live athletic contest that you used to get on TV when it was just Channel 6, Channel 10, and Channel 8. And it was all black and white in the early 60s. About the only live would be Saturday night boxing from time to time. And then it would come up to the championships or, for the contest for the championship. And we'd watch that. But every once in a while you'd see segments about their training regiments and the boxing. And the Christian life is that way. It's like a battle, so be a good soldier. It's like a journey, so travel safely. It's like a fight, so train fiercely. It's also like a school, so study hard. It is a family, so love one another. It is a work, labor intensely. It is a partnership, involve other people with you. You're not an island. It's a challenge, so step forward. It's a race, so run well. It is imperative that we do these 3 things. Number 1 is start correctly. You cannot start before the gun. It's a disadvantage to start after the gun fires. And the only way to perform at your very best is to start when the gun fires. And so you got to have the right starting point, the right starting place. You cannot run the race until you've been saved. You cannot run the race until you are born again. And a lot of times people set forth to run the Christian race, but then after a while, some things that we'll look at here in just a few moments, after a while they start out and they run really well and they run hard and they're involved and they're part of everything, the Christian life, everything the pastor says to do, everything the church requires, everything they know of in the Scripture, and they do it to their very best. And then all of a sudden you'll see a little drop off here, a little drop off there. You got to start the race correctly. Number 2, you got to run the race well. While you're running, you got to run it well. It's paramount that you run according to the rules. It's not your race, you're part of the race. You didn't set the race. You didn't start the race. You didn't establish the race. You didn't coordinate the race. You didn't get the field ready. You didn't do anything except enter into the race when you got saved. And everybody that's a born-again child of God, you're in the race. Whether you're running well or running poorly, you are in the race. And then finally, not as though we're done, finally tonight, you got to finish right. You got to finish right, and you'll see that here in a moment. And after I wrote down those 3 things there, I thought about 3 more things. And you don't have them on the screen, but you might want to write them on your paper. Not only must we start correctly, we must run well, we must finish right, but we got to run the right race. We've got to run the right race. We've got to run the right race the right way. I'm going to get tongue-tied in here in just a moment. You got to run the right race the right way. You didn't establish the rules. You didn't establish the length of the contest. You didn't establish the landscape of the contest, whether you're running on the track or running cross country or whatever, you're running a marathon on the streets of the city, whatever race that you didn't establish the race that I'm talking about tonight. So you got to run the right race the right way for the right period of time. You don't get to just quit the race when you feel like I'm tired and you may have to slow down, and you may have to pace yourself. The idea in the race is not necessarily to win, to finish first, to set a record time, but the idea of the Christian race is to start it, to run it, and to finish it. Your race, the one that God has placed you in. Now let me give you these 5 things very quickly. Tonight you'll see them. Number 1, here's some don'ts when it comes to this matter of running the race and running the race well, some things to help us run well while we're running. You'll see it on the screen there. Don't look with me in the book of Romans. Don't look with me in the book of Romans, but don't be overconfident in the flesh. Notice what the apostle said here in Romans chapter number 8. Number 1, don't be overconfident in the flesh. I want to say that again because I want it to sink in. Because there's so many, especially this day and hour when everything is self-promoting and the slogans of the world. They talk about, be the best and we should strive to be the best that we can, but we can't be the best that everybody else can. We're not cloned. We're not robots. God made us as individuals, and you'll see that in just a minute. And the race that you're running, if you try to put too much confidence in yourself, you'll ultimately fail at that race. You'll fail. Number 1, don't be overconfident in the flesh. Here's what the apostle said about it. I've got 1 through 9 in Romans chapter number 8, but let's begin in verse number 5. For they that are after the flesh, do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. We need to go through the book of Romans sometimes. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind, that is the fleshly mind, is enmity against God. For it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. Verse number 8. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please God. No way. But you're not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if so be that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you. Now, if any man have not the Spirit of Christ, he is none of his. Then he goes on and talks about if you don't have the Spirit of Christ, then of course you're dead. And so number 1, don't be overconfident. I want to move along quickly and get to 1 or 2 others. Number 1, don't be overconfident in your capabilities and your strengths, what you can do without Him. Okay? Are you with me? Are you awake? I hate to have to go back and start all over. Number 2, so don't be overconfident in the flesh. I've seen it happen in basketball. I've seen it happen in football. I've seen it happen in baseball. I've seen it happen in racing. I've seen it happen in every kind of athletic event. You always have that person, and they come in, and they're number one and they know it. Mom and Daddy told them they were the best. And if you ever watch Andy Griffith, Josh is back there smiling about when Opie was going to be in the foot race. I mean, ever saw the episode? 3. Good. No, several. And Barney's going to coach him, and Barney builds him up, and lets him, think that he's going to win. And then they fire the gun and they take off. It's about a 40-yard dash, I guess. And Opie finishes dead last, and he walks away with his head down. If you put confidence in the flesh, that's the way you'll end your race. Number 2, don't be overwhelmed by the inconsistencies of other people. Now, that's something that shows up in sports as well. If we're not careful, we'll want to blame others. We'll want others to take the blame for what we ourselves cannot do. I don't want to develop every one of these. I just want to mention them. I think the titles themselves have something to say. Don't be overconfident in the flesh. Number 2, if you want to run well, don't be overwhelmed by the inconsistency of others. Listen to these verses. You don't have to turn anywhere right now. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse number 20. Understand this, that in a great house, in a church, in a family, in a congregation, in a group of believers, in a great house, there are not only vessels of gold. Not everybody is as smart as you are. Not everyone is as athletic as you are. Not everyone is as agile as you are. I mean, you're number 1, and nobody's going to knock you off the throne. But in reality, God didn't make everybody the same. There are people, and you might be the smartest one in this crowd. You might be the most spiritual one in this crowd. You might be the best one in this crowd. But if you enlarge the crowd, there's a good chance there's going to be somebody better than you are. There's going to be somebody smarter than you are. There's going to be somebody more agile than you are. There's going to be somebody that can outdo. Now, I've met people that hadn't found that out yet through the years. And I'm trying to keep from smiling. But in a great house, there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor. But look at Mark 4 in verse number 8. And he develops this another step, and he helps us to see that it's not good that we are overwhelmed by the inconsistencies of other people. You'll never make it as a leader. You'll never make it as a pastor. You'll never make it as a teacher. You'll never make it as a supervisor. You'll never make it in leadership if you cannot understand that God makes everybody, as much as we all look different right here in this little 6 or 7 inch circle, as much as every one of us have different fingerprints. God made us all with different capabilities. And he mentions that when he's talking about the gifts. And other fell on good ground, the seed had been cast, and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased. Look at this. And brought forth some 30. Look at it on the screen. Let's go back. And other fell on good ground and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased. Maybe not as much as some, but at least some. We have to understand that people have different abilities and people have even different interests. And so don't be overwhelmed just because somebody's not doing what you're doing, is what I'm trying to say. Some produce 30, some 60, and some 100. So number 2, don't be overwhelmed by what looks like the inconsistencies in the lives of, well, they don't do anything. You know, you can't run well if you're looking at the inconsistencies of other people. Number 3, don't be overtaken by the opposition. Again, you won't have to turn a page here. You're going to have to turn them again in just a moment. Don't be overconfident in the flesh. Don't be overwhelmed in the inconsistency of others. Number 3, don't be overtaken by the opposition. The church had lots of opposition. Don't be overtaken by the opposition. Their opposition came because they were healing people in the name of Jesus. And the magistrates came out against them, and it grew. The men came out against them, the magistrates came out against them, and then the multitude came out against them. You can't be overtaken by the opposition. You can't allow the opposition. Nehemiah experienced it. Remember when he was building a wall? Who preached the other night out of the book of Nehemiah? One of our men did. Who was that? Brother Greg? Out of the book of Nehemiah. And one of the things that Nehemiah faced was opposition. And they were even named. Sanballat and Abinadab, and I forget who the other one was. They were named. And they were opposed to everything that Nehemiah was trying to do. Don't be overtaken by the opposition. Paul had this problem with Alexander the coppersmith. He said that he did me much harm, but you're not going to run the race well if you put too much confidence in this flesh. You're not going to run the race well if you get overwhelmed by the inconsistencies of other people. You're not going to run this race well if you're overtaken by the opposition. Number 4. Look with me in 1 Thessalonians. Turn there for just a moment. 1 Thessalonians chapter number 4. We're so familiar with verses 13 down through verse number 18. We read them at funerals and so on and so forth. But I want our reading to take up in verse number 9. But as touching brotherly love, you need not that I write unto you, for ye yourselves are taught of God to love one another. And indeed, ye do it toward all brethren which are in all Macedonia. But we beseech you, brethren, that you increase more and more. Don't just love those right around you. Then look at verse number 11. Verse number 11. It'll be our text. And that you study to be quiet. And look at the next phrase. To do your own business and to work with your own hands as we have commanded you, that you may walk honestly. Run the race. Run the race. Point number 4, don't be over concerned. I got to keep the rhythm going. Don't be overconfident in the flesh. Don't be overwhelmed with inconsistency of others. Don't be overtaken by this opposition. And don't be over concerned with business that is not your own. It seems like it's almost an art that people try to accomplish in minding everybody's business. Just minding everybody's business. Notice what he said. He said, study and be quiet and do your neighbor's business, your own business. And so don't be over concerned with business that is not your own. I preach a whole message from this passage. I don't think I've preached it probably in 20 years, I don't believe. I got to find it. Because it was a good one. It's one of the good ones. Don't say amen there. Don't be over concerned with business that's not your own. And so my message was out of the center part of that verse, earning a degree in minding your own business. Earning a degree. Is it hard to earn a degree, Brother Chris? He's been working on 2 of them at one time. It's hard work to do your own business, to keep your own business caught up. It'd be, earning a degree in minding your own business. Here's 3 things. I'm not going to give you all of them, but I thought of these 3. I couldn't find the message anywhere. I thought of these 3. Here's 3 things about minding your own business. Number one, and somebody may have the rest of the notes if you put them in at any point in time. I like these. Number one, parenting others' children. It is so much easier to parent someone else's child. I love it when people, and they have, they don't have any children yet, and fair warning, and and when they look at somebody else's children, they say, my kids will never do that. I just kind of turn around and go, because it's one of the silliest things. My children never do that. My children would never do that. And some people are so set on that, it is to their own harm that they don't think their children would ever do that. Let me give you, this is not even part of the message. Let me give you some pastoral, grandfatherly parenting advice. Never, ever believe that there's anything, number one, that you won't do. Never believe that your children won't do. You need to be so suspicious. You need to look at their phones. You need to have everything your children are doing. Our girls were, one of them's here tonight. Tracy's gone up to North Georgia. And when we kept doors open, like when kids were playing and all those kind of things, and neighbors were over and cousins and all were over. We kept all the doors. That's the way it worked at my house. Mama kept all the doors open all the time. I don't think my children would ever do anything. Let me tell you in the words of Robbie Smith, dumb, 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 dumb. Don't ever think it for a minute. Never. This is touchy now. This is real touchy. Don't believe your kids over. Don't believe your kids over spiritual adults. Over spiritual adults. Never. Anybody can be wrong, and nobody's always right. But I remember when I got in trouble the last day of high school, and I was guilty by association. I'm not even going to tell you the story. I probably told it before. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I got drug into the principal's office, and I got 3 or 5, I think it was 25 licks. It felt like 25. I don't know how I could do it all in one motion. This big arm came out of the principal's office, and the next thing I knew, I was leaning over a desk like this, and he had one arm on top of my head, and he reached into a drawer and got out a big electric paddle. That's what they used to call them. Pow, 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 pow. It felt like an electric paddle. And then the principal stood up and he said, Steve, he said, do you want me to call Nina? That's my mama's name. Or Orland. He knew my mom and dad personally, went to school with my mother. He said, do you want me to call Nina or Orland? I said, no, thank you, sir. And I'm 17 years old. No, thank you. I took my punishment. I felt I was done unjustly. But I tell you, the lesson that I learned from that has carried me until I'm 75 years old. Life isn't always fair. And even when it's not, you can learn lessons that you're not going to get being coddled and petted and just kind of, brooded over all the time. Every once in a while, when you get out in this real world, you'll find out in a hurry that you don't get a break. You don't get a break. Okay, back to the subject. So I'm not going to try to parent your children. Okay? Parenting others' children. Here's another one. The past that is covered. Don't get into that business. We spend so much time worried about what we used to be, and I know it's part of our testimony, and we want to help other people, and that's the right thing to do. But just to live in that past that has been covered. I like the song that says, when he sees me, he sees the blood. He doesn't see that rowdy teenager. He doesn't see who I was, selfish, and the list goes on and on and on. The past that is covered. Here's one. And to keep up with the outline, parenting others' children, the past that is covered starts with P's and ends with C's. I had 7 of them. Pastoring others' churches. I have people to every once in a while they'll call me and say, "Hey, Pastor Ward, what do you think about my pastor?" And I said, end of conversation. I say, end of conversation. How else can I help you? I've got all I can do without trying to pastor someone else's church. We were in a restaurant some time back, and a question was proposed, well, what do you think about this, Pastor Ward? And I'm thinking, it ain't none of my business. It ain't none of my business. You know how I've kept my sanity for over 50 years now? And I try not to. I've got one church to pastor. And I can't do all that by myself. So I've got Daniel and I've got Chris to fill in the empty spots. A lot of times I tell them, you go take care of that. You go do this. Earn you a degree in minding your business. You'll be better off for it. Don't be over concerned with business that is not your own. Finally, and it's found in the Gospel of Luke, in Luke chapter number 21, and we'll close. Some ways to help you run well. Don't be overcharged with the things of the world. They'll eat up your time. They'll eat up your life. Notice what he said in Luke chapter number 21, in verse number 32. Verily, I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away. My word shall not pass away. Here's some of his words. He said, take heed to yourselves. We're talking about running a good race now. I'm trying to close. We're talking about running a good race. Take good care of yourself. Don't mind other people's business. Don't be so concerned about those that are a little lax. Just center in on you. He said, take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts, here it is, be overcharged with surfeiting. That's not something you do on the waves in Hawaii. It means it's excess or overindulgence in something. I mean, good things things that are good in moderation are not good in excess. They become a sin in our lives. Lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and the cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. Look in verse 35, and we'll close. For as a snare shall it come upon all them that dwell on the face of the earth. And so we have this warning in the message of the coming of the Lord, that just you're not going to be able to run the race well if you're trying to stay engaged in the world, trying to pacify 2 areas at the same time, satisfying through the world the things of the flesh, And then, of course, the things of the Spirit. He said, let us lay aside every weight. Let us drop off those weights. We can't carry the weight of the world, the things of the world, and run the race that we're supposed to run. Finish well, okay?